Sour clears space for forgiveness without faking it. And it gives us a chance to trust our direction again. Clarity returns. We stop spiraling in indecisions. We reclaim the power to change our mind, pivot, and move forward with intention. In a culture that often equates kindness with silence and softness with submission, embracing the clarity of sour becomes an act of radical self respect. Hey everyone, welcome back to A Talk with G, the podcast where ancient medicine meets soul remembrance. I'm your host Gia, and today we are stepping into episode 3 of our sixth taste of Ayurveda series. So far, we've explored sweetness, madhura, the taste of grounding, rest, and inner nourishment. Today, we're going to pivot. We're going to turn up the heat. We're entering the realm of alma, the sour taste, the rasa of activation, transformation, emotional honesty, and fire. Sour isn't always comfortable, but it is deeply necessary. It wakes us up. It sharpens our senses. It brings clarity where things have grown dull, stagnant, and overly sweet. So, if you've been feeling stuck, numb, or unsure about what needs to shift in your life, this episode's for you. The sour taste might just be the jolt you've been avoiding. Sourness as a spark, truth, and emotional awakening. In the language of Ayurveda, Alma is the rasa of stimulation, circulation, and awakening. Where sweet comforts, sour activates. Where sweet soothes, sour stirs. It is a taste that shakes us out of stagnation, physically, emotionally, and energetically, and says, there is something here that needs to be seen. With the wisdom that we gain from Ayurveda, sour is associated with our Agni, our digestive fire, and its qualities are sharp, hot, light, and moist. It has a very specific job to stimulate, to pull us back into presence, to quicken the digestion, awaken our mind, and help us metabolize not only food, but emotion, experience, and old patterns that no longer serve us. This taste enhances our body's ability to absorb, which symbolically extends to our life. It helps us absorb truth, absorb lessons, absorb what's real, even when it's uncomfortable. Because sour, more than any other taste, carries a psychological frequency of clarity. And clarity, when we've been numbing, bypassing, or romanticizing our pain, can feel like a jolt. Just as the first bite of a lemon puckers our face and makes us fully alert, sour awakens the parts of us that have been asleep, hiding, or disconnected. It cuts through the fog and forces a reckon. Is this really what I want? What am I avoiding? What needs to be said? Sour is the emotional distiller. It reduces a complex swirl of confusion into something sharper, simpler, and often harder to ignore. That's why sour rasa is often linked to moments in our healing journey where we are finally feeling ready to tell the truth, break a toxic pattern, set a need for boundary, or walk away from something that once felt safe but now has grown stale. It's the taste of discernment, of deciding who we are, of no longer sugarcoating what hurts. And while sweet speaks to our need of love and safety, sour addresses our relationships with boundaries, confrontation, and power. When out of balance, this taste can show up as passive aggressiveness, emotional reactivity, impatience, resentment, and sarcasm used as an armor. But at its highest frequency, sour is transformational. It says, we do not have to keep pretending. We are allowed to change our mind. We are allowed to stop romanticizing, struggling, and start calling ourselves into clarity. It offers a kind of sacred friction, enough tension to stir movement, but not so much that it burns everything down. When used consciously, sour can be the spark that revives a tired soul, a stuck relationship, or a dream you shelved. However, sour taste does not calm us like a sweet does, but it moves us. It brings blood to the surface. It circulates, it provokes, not to punish, but to awaken our inner instincts and inner fire. Biochemically, it increases our enzymes activity, saliva and bile production, and digestive secretions. Metaphysically, it increases mental sharpness, emotional honesty, and a desire to clear the air. Sour can feel uncomfortable, and that's the point. It creates space for truth to rise, and with movement. So, the deeper question becomes, are we using sour as a way to move forward or to push people away? Is it our sharpness serving clarity or creating more confusion? Ayurveda reminds us that sour taste is best used intentionally, not habitually. It is not meant to be consumed all day, every day. It's medicine, not a main course. The same way you wouldn't squeeze a lemon over every meal, you don't need confrontation, intensity, or emotional heat in every moment, but the right amount at the right time. Sour brings life back to places where we're wilting. So let this be your invitation to reframe the sour moments in life, the tension, the contrast, the emotional friction. What if that thing that stung was also the thing that stirred you awake? What if that irritation is a signal that something needs movement, not suppression? What if you could honor your own sharpness without shame as a part of your intuitive wisdom? Because when used consciously, sour taste does not just awaken digestion, it awakens the soul. Earth and fire, the alchemy of movement and clarity. As we all know, every taste is composed of two of nature's five greatest building blocks: earth, water, fire, air, and ether. Each combination brings its own unique energetic effort and effects on the body, the emotions, and mind. Sour taste arises from the interplay of earth and fire. This pairing may seem contradictory at first glance, one grounding and the other volatile, but that's where sour gets its edge from. Earth contributes qualities of density, stability, nourishment, support, and substance. Fire adds sharpness, heat, light, intensity, transformation. When you combine these two, you get a rasa that is nourishing without stagnation, activating without being completely destabilized, and tangy, alert, bright, but still embodying. Sour does not coddle you, it challenges you, but in a way that ultimately supports your growth. It is the taste of boundary, of appropriate attention, of edgy insight. It keeps things moving, circulating, digesting, while giving just enough weight to help that insight land. Think of foods like yogurt, citrus, tamarind, fermented vegetables. They're zippy, intense, and alive. They light up our taste buds, kickstart our system, but they also carry nourishment and density. This is sour's duality. It confronts, but also contains. These are the flavors that tell the nervous system, wake up, something new is here, let's clear out the old. We've talked about how every taste will either pacify or provoke the doshas, our blueprints that make up our physical, emotional, and mental experience. It's important to know which dosha is affected by which taste, especially if you are in an environment that's seasonally changing. Sour is no exception to the influence because it's bold and distinct. So while it pacifies our vata, because vata, for our sour taste, brings in the grounding qualities of earth and warmth of fire, it helps moisten the tissues, stimulates sluggish digestion, and focus in the mind. In a moment of indecision or mental fog, Alma can offer the spark of clarity that Vata types deeply need. It's in the sense that sour is like a reality check for Vata. It pulls you out of the clouds and back to the moment, and it could say it lovingly, but firmly. Let's come back to earth. Let's finish what we started. However, for our Pitta and Kappas, this taste can aggravate you. For Pitta, sour can be too hot to handle. It fans the flames, especially when it shows up in your criticism, competitiveness, nature, and reactivity. Physically, this might lead to heartburn, skin issues, or inflammation. Emotionally, it could trigger impatience, irritability, and perfectionism. For Kapha, sour's weight building earth component may contribute to mucus production, sluggish digestion, and water retention. Yet, small dose of its fiery energy can be stimulating to help awaken their often slow and overly attached emotional patterns. Of course, the key is moderation. A key to remind yourself. Sour's taste does not aim to nurture the same way sweet does. It aims to activate. It wants you to notice what's dull, what's heavy, what's unspoken, and start moving with it. Used skillfully, sour clears confusion. Used excessively or unconsciously, it burns bridges, literally and metaphorically. We're not here to say sour is bad, just as it doesn't glorify any one rasa over another. It's here to say match the taste to the truth of the moment. Honor what your body is asking for, not what your habits or stories are dictating. So check in. Are you stuck in sweetness, afraid of the truth, afraid of your own truth? Have things grown too passive, too predictable, too comfortable? Is your digestion sluggish, your emotions stale, your creativity asleep? If yes to any of this, maybe it's a little time for some sour. And if you're already burning up with intensity, maybe it's time to cool it down with some compassion instead. This is the intelligence of Alma. It doesn't shame you for being stuck, it gives you the spark to change. When truth becomes the catalyst for change, when received with reverence and awareness, the sour taste becomes more than a tang or a tingle. It becomes a spark, a sharp, sacred invitation to feel, face, and move. Where sweet rasa soothes the wound of our inner child, sour speaks to the part of us that is ready to evolve. It doesn't ask you to soften, it asks you to wake up, to come back to clarity, to engage with your senses, to reconnect to the pulse of your life. Sourness is not always gentle, but it's deeply loving because truth, when offered without distortion, is one of the most profound forms of nourishment. Let's explore what this rasa does across the levels of our body, mind, and soul. In Ayurveda, we are taught that Alma stimulates our Agni, our metabolic fire. But this fire doesn't just burn in our belly, it burns through the stagnation wherever it lives. When you experience this taste with presence, your brain responds with heightened alertness, clarity, and activation. You see, sour increases the segregation of saliva, gastric juice, and bile, jumpstarting our digestion from the moment it hits our tongue. It activates both our gut fire and our mental fire. The tangy, surprising nature of sour creates a burst of dopamine, heightening attention and motivation. This is the rasa of momentum, getting unstuck. And sour stimulates our Manipuri chakra, the solar plex, because this chakra is associated with our self esteem, clarity, and personal power. When this chakra is balanced, we feel motivated, directional, and decisive. Sour also increases the blood flow and supports our peripheral circulation, warming our cold limbs, igniting the tissue's metabolism, and helping us feel more present in our skin. Sour reminds our body, you're here, now, and awake. Let's move forward. Emotionally, the sour taste holds a very specific energetic medicine, discernment, direction, and liberation. It doesn't coddle, it cuts through, not with cruelty, but with clarity. Used with presence, Alma Rasa can help us. When we are swirling in indecision, this rasa restores our ability to discern what's real. It brings the emotional temperature up enough to help things rise and be seen clearly. Just as it cleansed the liver, sour helps purge emotional heaviness, bitterness, blame, passivity, and resentment are metabolized through the catalytic spark of this taste. And when we've lost touch with our fire, our passion, our purpose, Alma can reignite this drive. It says, there is still life in you. Let's find it. Sour also helps us say no, not from the fear or anger, but from the truth. It reminds us that not everything is meant to be sweet. Some things require edge, strength, and honesty. Sour connects us to our voice, the part of us that speaks with a clear tone and conviction. It pulls out emotional people pleasing and puts us into this personal alignment. That's why Alma is so supportive during times of a major change, job shifting, emotional breakthrough, breakups, detox, and energetic clearing. It is the igniter, Rasa, calling you to rise into who you are becoming. Just like sweetness, sour does not have to come from your fork. You can receive sour in the most sacred forms through experience that challenge, move, and awaken us. Think of a truth that stings but sets you free, a deep tissue massage that breaks up the tension, honest feedback that shifts your entire course, movement practice like shaking, ecstatic dancing, breathwork, journaling questions that force you to tell the truth, watching a movie or listening to music that pierces your heart and leaves you raw but clear, leaving a place or a person that once felt like home and finally saying, I'm choosing myself now. These are all forms of this rasa in motion. These are the fermented flavors of growth, the cleansing, the stirriness. This is making the space for the new. And when welcomed consciously, the sour moments in our life stop feeling like failure and start feeling like freedom. Now, this is a part that I truly enjoy because with every light is some dark. There is a shadow side of a sour. This is when clarity turns to critique. This is where sour taste gets sharp, literally, energetically, and emotionally. Alma is the rasa we often reach for when we feel stuck, unseen, frustrated, or stifled. Not because it soothes, but because it activates. It stirs something. It provokes a response. It wakes up the system and it demands, feel this, change this, move. And when consciously, it's transformation. But when compulsively, it turns corrosive. It stops being the spark that ignites growth and becomes the acid that erodes connection, trust, joy, and self worth. Alma clears, but it can also cut. It sharpens, but it can sting. It brings truth, but it can bruise. When we are not expressing our truth, when our boundaries have been crossed, when we're in a deep irritation without an outlet, sour energy surface. Sometimes not through food, but tone, attitude, sarcasm, and sudden emotional reactivity. Let's explore this on a deeper level. Let's see the dynamics that often are hidden behind the unconsciousness of our sourness. The emotional vitality, releasing unmet truths through reactions. Sometimes, as humans, we lash out not because we hate, but because we've held in too much. Our inner fire hasn't had space to be honored, so it explodes, and then we become misunderstood and uncontrollable. When criticism becomes control, it can find what's wrong and feels like we don't have time to truly understand what's bothering us. We become sharp with ourselves or others because vulnerability feels unsafe. It's easier to control things through critique than to sit in uncertainty of pain. This one I wear the most sometimes. Sarcasm is armor. If I laugh first, I won't be exposed. Sour humor becomes a shield. We all use it. We're using this biting wit to create distance, a way of speaking truth without being held accountable for feelings it might bring up. It shows us impatience as self protection. If this is not changing fast enough, I can't trust it. This is the trauma of inconsistency. When life has been unpredictable or unsafe, the need for fast resolution becomes survival. Sourness surfaces urgency, restlessness, or controlling behavior. When our sour rasa dominates in food or behavior, our body and soul react in a way that it's hard to ignore. Mentally and emotionally, we show up irritable. We show up with short temper, hypercritical self talk, perfectionism masked as high standards, emotional burnout, intensity without integration, mood swings, especially after eating acidic food or fermented food, tension in relationships, frequent conflict, projection, self defense. And we also have an agitation. Everything aggravates at this time. Physically, it can show up as heartburn, ulcers, acid reflux, a sour taste in the mouth or excess saliva, inflammation, hot flashes, burning sensation, skin irritation, especially rashes or redness around our chest and our face, a sour body odor, or overly activated sweat. Sour, when out of balance, heats the blood, shortens the fuse, and dulls the joy. It creates speed, sharpness, and overactivation, like a fire that's been fed too much fuel. Here's the core truth: when we've gone too long without being heard, we start to speak in fire. When our power has been denied, we reclaim it through critique, not creation. But sour is meant to liberate, not dominate. It's not meant to burn relationships or scorch our self trust. It's meant to cleanse, reveal, to renew. When we forget this, when sour becomes habitable instead of intentional, we lose access to its deeper wisdom because clarity without compassion becomes cruelty, and truth without tenderness becomes trauma. Healing our relationships with Alma isn't about silencing our fire, it's about channeling it. It's about learning to say, I choose to speak the truth, not to cut, but to connect. It's about pausing before each reaction and asking, what is this irration trying to tell me? Is there a need here I haven't voiced? Am I seeking truth or control? Can I express with clarity and clear? And if sourness shows up in your food craving, citrus, vinegar, fermented snacks, ask yourself, am I needing movement or change right now? Is something stagnant in my body or life? Am I using food to ignite what I haven't yet acted on? When you meet sour with intention, it becomes a sacred tool for releasing emotional toxins, for expressing repressed truths, for reigniting your power with integrity. Because conscious sourness isn't cruel, it's catalytic. And it's the love that says you deserve to live in truth. Let's clear the fog. Now, the $1,000,000 question. Why is it so important to recognize the taste? The sacred spark of self honesty. Among all the tastes in Ayurveda, sour is perhaps the most misunderstood because it doesn't whisper, it doesn't soothe, it doesn't comfort in the way we've been conditioned to crave. It confronts, it asks, and it activates. Are you ready to feel what you've been avoiding? Are you willing to stop sugarcoating your truth? And that is exactly why recognizing the sour taste, both on your tongue and in your life, is such a profound spiritual and psychological practice. When we constantly work with sour, we begin to understand that not all healing is soft. Some of it's sharp. Not all clarity feels good, but it brings goodness. Not all emotions are meant to be digested slowly. Some need to rise, move, and release. Sour is the rasa that teaches the art of discernment, knowing that what is ours to carry and what is not ours to set down. It teaches us that boundaries are not walls, they're filters of the truth. And it teaches us that movement is sacred, especially when you've been stuck in cycles of over accommodation, emotional passivity, and internalizing anger. When you recognize your alma consciously, you begin to stop apologizing for your fire. We stop making ourselves smaller so others feel comfortable. We stop muting our instincts and editing our truth for approval. We validate our own emotional responses. We no longer feel shame or irritation or urgency or the desire to move. We learn to listen to them as messengers and not problems. We set boundaries without bitterness because when our truth is clear and our energy is clean, our no's become a gift, not a rejection. We start to release resentment and perfectionism. We stop holding on to unspoken tension. We allow ourselves to be humans and others too. Sour clears space for forgiveness without faking it. And it gives us a chance to trust our direction again. Clarity returns. We stop spiraling in indecisions. We reclaim the power to change our mind, pivot, and move forward with intention. In a culture that often equates kindness with silence and softness with submission, embracing the clarity of sour becomes an act of radical self respect. It says, I am bold and I can make the changes and remain in my integrity. It says, I speak my truth and stay in a relationship or not. It says, I don't need to stay to be comfortable. I stay kind. Sour does not ask you to explode, it asks you to evolve. It does not demand perfection, it demands presence. To recognize the sour taste is to recognize your own edge and choose to meet it with compassion, courage, and clarity. Once we begin to recognize sour with awareness, it becomes a tool, not a trigger. We begin to see our irritability not as a flaw, but as a flag, a sign that something needs attention, expression, or release. We begin to use sour moments as rituals of self return. Speaking of an unspoken truth, taking action in a stagnant decision, moving your body to release emotional congestion, choosing to cleanse your environment, your inbox, your inner narrative. We no longer fear the sharp edges of transformation. We trust them because sour when honor doesn't burn it. It burns away what no longer serves us. So the next time something sour arises in your body or your spirit, whether it's food craving, a boundary needing, a emotional discomfort bubbling to the surface, pause, ask yourself, is this moment here to harm me or to wake me up? Because more than often, the sour taste is love disguised as friction. It's not here to wound you, it's here to liberate you. Let your truth move you. Thank you guys all so much for walking through the bold and clarifying world of Alma. I know this rasa can feel edgy and even uncomfortable, but it's one of the most loving teachers we have because it doesn't lie, it doesn't pretend, and it doesn't pacify. It wakes us up, it clears the fog, and it reminds us that growth isn't always gentle. Sometimes it comes with a sting that heals. So this week, I invite you to notice the sour moments in your life, the conversations that feel sharp but honest, the decisions that have been postponed but are ready to move, the emotions that sting because they're real, not wrong. And when you feel that tingle in your mouth, your gut, your heart, remember this is life trying to get your attention. Don't run, don't numb, just listen. Let the truth move you, let it cleanse you. What no longer fits, let it go. Let it be a guide back to your alignment. In next week's episode, we'll be exploring our salty taste, lavana, the rasa of connection, coherence, and hydration. And remember that you are part of something greater because the salt taste is where boundaries soften and where community begins. If this episode stirs something inside of you, share it with someone you feel need to hear it. Tag me on IG at A Talk with G. I love to hear how this taste shows up in your story and how you're learning to work with it, not against it. Until next time, be brave in your clarity, be kind in your boundaries, and may every truth, even the sharp one, bring you closer to freedom.